You're listening to the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour with Blaze and Ken. And now, Blaze and Ken.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour. I'm Blaze.
I'm Ken.
And I'm confused.
Wait.
I see Guardians of the Galaxy.
Blaze, I think you're a little overdressed for tonight.
I'm like, what is happening? Guardians of the Galaxy doesn't exactly go with our guest, but I know there's always,
It might. We might be able to put this together.
Okay.
Listen,
I'm looking forward to it.
Any chance that I get to be able to wear something like this, I'm going to go for it, you know? And I just recently got this and I love it and I'm going to use it because when else am I going to wear this?
Hey, say no more. I just was confused for a second. I'm thinking, is Chris Pratt on the show tonight? Um, but we actually have someone better because we love him. We have Tom
Yes.
Gipson on the show, and Ken and I both know Tom really well, and it's so exciting because he's just recently done a Lifetime movie. Ken, do you watch Lifetime at all?
Oh, all the time. I'm known for watching Lifetime movies
Now,
constantly.
seriously though, did you get to see Tom? You
I
did.
did. In support of our guests and being a friend of Tom, of course I
Yes.
watched it. You know, I mean,
Okay.
is it my go-to? Absolutely not. But because Tom was in it, I had to see this movie.
Yeah. So the movie that we're talking about for the audience is called The Man with My Husband's Face. And it was on Lifetime. And I have to say that I watched it from a hospital room. My mom's been hospitalized for a little while now, and she's in recovery. So we're just sending lots of prayers and hi, mom, to our biggest fan out there. Mwah. Get well soon,
Absolutely.
please. But we watched it. She was able to get Lifetime on her television, and we watched it together. And she just kept saying, "Ooh, he's so cute. Oh, he's so handsome."
You know what? I'm
You
going to
know
get into a
him. You
story
know
about
him.
this. I'm going to get into a story about this actually
Okay.
because I know Tom because of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I had done the acting thing for a while, and I decided that I was done with it. And somehow this person over here to my right, yeah,
Yeah.
um, called me up and said, "Can you help me out with a movie I'm working on?" And in my head, I'm like, I don't do that anymore. It's fun, but and I'm like, you know what? No, I'll pick and choose, and I will help my friends out if they need it. And I did it. And then I got there and found out that the person I'm working with, who's my friend in the movie, is like Tom Cruise hot. And I'm like, I'm his friend. Like everyone's gonna be looking at this guy. Thanks, Blaze.
Listen,
Buddy.
I thought, yeah, actually that's one of the lines, right? So maybe before he joins. No, actually, I want to play it when he joins. So I was going to say I'll play the clip. But yeah, it was just so much fun. And what's kind of interesting is that Ken and I, when we had first decided to do this show, it was before we actually decided to do this show. So it was because it was before COVID and everything. We had a different name of the show and everything, even just conceptually, it was
There were a
different.
couple different
Um,
there were a couple different attempts of
yeah,
doing this show.
yeah,
At least two
there
that I can
was.
think of.
But hey, listen, but Tom was our first guest and
Yeah.
we did like record everything and but it never got to see the light of day. So I don't even know where that file is at this point.
Th-
It's been a while.
I believe there are pictures on Instagram though.
Yes, there are, but I just think it's so funny because he's just such a good sport, and it's been
Oh yeah.
so fun watching his career grow and him grow too with his
Yeah.
career. It's been incredible. So, yeah, when we speak to him, it's gonna be super exciting.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Listen, if the audience doesn't get it, we're going to have fun tonight.
Absolutely. We ended up casting him as, Tommy, which was just random that his name is Tom, and we cast him in the role of Tommy. It was totally random. But
Actually,
Scott Stram and I just had so much fun with him. Again, he did everything we asked and then some. And he kind of had to be a jerk. If you watch the movie, he was kind of like the jerkiest of all the characters.
me too,
Um,
actually. Me too. I take pride in my jerkiness. What?
yeah,
What?
yeah,
What does that even mean?
yeah. It was really funny.
Actually, can I be honest?
Yeah,
One of the reasons why I said yes to this project,
yeah,
it was done in a steakhouse on Route 36
yeah,
in Middletown, North
yeah,
Middletown,
yeah.
where I grew up. And in doing it, I actually spent the weekend that we were shooting with family and stayed at my cousin's house. And
Yeah.
when I realized that was the gig, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this.
Well, listen, Scott would tell you that we did come at one point we had like a pre type of shoot and it was in the city and it ended up going horribly. It was like an overnight shoot. I think I had to get my gallbladder out. Like there was a whole big mess. It was hilarious. And Scott and I
I
just had so
remember
much
that.
fun.
I remember that.
But everybody took it, like, so well. They were in good spirits. It was the owner of the restaurant that just decided all of a
Well,
sudden,
I
to cool
lucked
out.
out. I lucked out because I came in towards the end of it. I didn't have to be there
You
for
did.
the majority of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I lucked out. And again, comic book theme. Do you remember what you named my character?
Um, no, I
Xavier,
don't. Oh, Xavier, that's
because you knew I was
oh
a
my
comic book fan. So yeah.
yeah, you know
So
what?
yeah, see, I'm just trying to make this work, Blaze. I'm
I
just trying to
know.
make this suit work, okay?
Well, I know you were very late on getting me your bio for the Speed David and Holly
Well,
site.
that's a common theme too,
And I made
because
it
it
up
took me
for you,
forever.
and it was, like, the
Yeah,
most ludicrous thing that I could possibly say about you. I forget, like, you had 6 cats and all sorts of
yep.
things, like, I made it all up. It was great. But listen,
That is a common theme between you and me because I held off for this show too, and I was almost waiting for you to write it for me again. So
well, I'm this close, buddy, I'm this close.
yeah. Well,
Listen,
you
I
have it.
see
You have it now.
I see that Tom has joined us,
Yes.
so, let's welcome Tom Gipson to the show. Hi, Tom.
Ooh, hey, Blake. What's up, Ben? How are you? I like
How's it
that
going, man?
outfit.
It's been a
You look like you
thank
just
you.
came from a viewing of Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, this is just my normal work attire.
Okay, nice. So you saved the galaxy as a normal day of business then.
Yes, there's no pay in it, but it's very fulfilling and rewarding.
Right.
Listen,
It's
Tom, I was
creatively
just
fulfilling.
as confused as you were. So as soon as we said cheers, I was like, "I'm confused. What's happening here?"
We'll find a way to
But
make it
that's
work, I
okay.
promise.
We will. We'll
Indeed.
bring it full circle. So before you joined us, I kind of mentioned about how we met originally through Speed Damon and Holly,
Mhm.
and then Ken talked about his cameo with you. So I'm gonna actually play that clip. So let's roll that clip right now.
Okay, I love this.
What's the damage, Red?
$40 each.
$40.
You brought me out for this? This better be worth it.
Just pay the girl.
Me? Thanks, buddy.
Seems pleasant enough. Non-threatening. Certain boyish charm.
Hey, I'm Tommy. I used to work on the docks.
I'm Holly. Wait, that's from a song, right?
You know, I noticed you from across the room. I've been waiting to make my way over here. I was supposed to play football today, but a buddy of mine just broke up with his girlfriend and he wanted to come.
Oh, then we have something in common. My girlfriend Jessie forced me into coming to this thing.
Why don't we get out of here? There's a motel right across the street. You can bring your girlfriend if you like.
What? Please be joking. Please be joking. He's not. Gross.
Don't forget to add my name to your card.
Switch!
Just in case you changed your mind.
I will never lay down in a bed of roses with you if you're the last man on earth. Non-Jovi.
So see Ken and his debut.
So many memories racing through
I'm
my
telling
head right
you.
now.
I'm telling
It was
you.
good
So
time.
Tom, doing that movie in particular, having to play kind of a creepy jerk, um, what was that like for you? Because you're such a nice guy, like in general, like in real life. So I just want to know what your process is to get there.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's it's fun to be able to play these extreme characters and kind of just go all out with it. And the tone of the of Speed, Damon, and Holly was so comical. And the irony being that you sourced it from real life events,
Yeah,
but it just was so extreme that, and you gave me the liberty to kind of just have fun with the character and just go big. So I was just able to play with that and kind of just have fun,
yeah.
which is the great part about doing comedies, is that you can really just kind of let loose, and you don't have to be as grounded.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I also mentioned The Man with My Husband's Face. And I was saying that my mom and I watched it in the hospital, and she just kept saying, "He's so cute. He's so handsome." I'm sure you get that all the time. But so talking about the difference between, you had the comedy aspect in the Speed, Damon and Holly type of movie, and then you have this serious, I don't think there was any bit of comedy in there, really, but you have those two, the dichotomy there. How was that to do completely serious? And I think we can give a little bit of the stuff away just because it aired already, but we'll give as much as you want to give away. So tell us about that.
Sure. Well, first I want to say, thoughts and prayers to your mom. I hope she's
Thank you.
feeling better and doing well.
Thank you.
Um, and I'm glad that you guys both watched it and that she enjoyed
Yeah.
it. So for me, creatively, when I'm playing something like a thriller with a much darker tone, it's important for me to try to keep it as grounded as possible,
Right.
and try to make it, even if I'm playing, and spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, if I'm playing a character that's over the edge, as far as a lot of these thrillers, these characters are very psychotic, sociopaths. So I try to not play a caricature. I try to play the character as someone that truly feels justified in what they're doing. And for this one, for Man with My Husband's Face, I really wanted to tap into a man that just was unhappy in his marriage, that felt he was the one being taken advantage of. It. He was the one working while his wife was at home writing a book that she'd been writing for years and not contributing, and I was paying for everything, and wasn't feeling loved or appreciated. And I asked her to make coffee for me, and she just doesn't even listen or hear me. And I just wanted to tap into that feeling and how far someone could go with wanting to get out of that, but the only way out was to essentially gaslight his wife so that way he could not lose everything that he had built, or lose half of it to her. So that
Right.
was kind of my how I worked on creating the character, was just really attaching myself to what he was feeling to justify the extent he goes to mess with her.
Right. Well, that's probably why it came off so. When you said the word gaslight, I was like, "Yes, that's exactly what he did."
Yeah.
And then some, and then some.
Yeah. I mean, it really is a story about a woman just being gaslit, not just by me, but by my partner, by the detective, not knowingly, but he's essentially constantly telling her what she believes to be real is not real.
Right.
And when you have that coming to you from all different sides, you start to question your own sanity. And um, Coco Marshall, who played Kat in the film, she did such a wonderful job of playing this character that just wasn't sure what to believe anymore. As certain as she was, she starts kind of questioning her sanity.
Yeah.
Actually, can you tell us a little bit about working with Coco and how your relationship worked?
Well, we met on the airplane to where we shot, and we got to talk about the script a lot on the flight. And it was this 5 6 hour flight, and we got to get to know each other a little bit. She had just worked. She had worked overnight the previous night, so she was on fumes, but she was still super excited about what we were about to take on. So she just stayed up the whole flight talking to me. At the end, we finally landed. I was like, I should have let you sleep. I'm so sorry. But we had great rapport. She was a delight to work with. She gave so much, and I really loved what she did with that character.
Yeah. So
I totally agree.
tell us a little bit about the process. So how many shoot days was this particular movie?
Um, Lifetime films tend to be around 3 to 3.5 weeks, so it's
Yeah.
really condensed. And when I booked it to when I start shooting, it's a matter of days.
Okay.
I get the confirm, and then my flight is booked maybe like 2 or 3 days later. So, and I don't know the shoot schedule right away, so I don't even know where to start. So for me, my process is kind of when I have just this short amount of time to prep for an entire feature, is to just really connect to the character and to understand what the arc of the story is, what the arc of my character is, and connecting to that. So that way, when we get there and we're going to shoot the next day, whatever scene they throw at me, it's, I can, once I understand who the character is and what's going on, I can memorize very easily. It's, that part comes easily. It's when
Yeah.
I don't know, if I don't feel grounded in who the character is and what they want and what's going on, then it becomes uh, a much more difficult task of like, all right, what scene are we doing?
Yeah.
Well, I'll ask you too because your character is very layered, and a
Mhm.
lot of it gets peeled back throughout the course of the film. Like, there's some red herrings, there's some stuff that we might think is real, and it may not be. Um, when you're at a certain point during shooting, like, where do you like? How do you take that character and be like, okay, this is where I am right now, or this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now?
So I create a essentially a storyboard with the chronological events of the film. So that way, when I see, when we get the next day's schedule or 2 days in advance schedule, and I see where we're going to be shooting, I can plug that. Oh, okay, we're here, day 3 of this story, and then we're going to be shooting. 2 days later, on that same day, we're going to be shooting, but the next scene is that. So I can connect the dots and know where I am psychologically, know where the character is in the story, what he's just gone through, what he's been through, what he's preparing for. So that's what I do. I have this. I have it one across. If I'm in a hotel room or cabin or wherever they have me. I'll put it on the wall, and I have like a journal where I kind of write it out as well, and it's sort of me writing out the the storyline of the character, and I'm able to tap in. Okay, we're here. Boom, and then I can just jump right into that place, and then it's just a matter of using the
Yeah.
imagination, all those fun.
I have this picture in my head that you're in your room and you've got like one of those police detective murder boards with the lines going everywhere, and you're like, okay,
Something like
here,
that.
here,
Yeah, I'm very Bruce Wayne about it in that way. I like to feel that I'm in it and have those things around me so that I can make the connections quickly.
Now that is a character I would love to see you play.
Absolutely.
I would love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
dream role.
Or
And
Superman. I think you could play either or.
I
So
don't
No,
know,
no, no,
based
at the top of my head, I mean,
I have to hit the gym extra extra
I don't
intensely to
know,
do that.
based based on based on based on this past movie, I mean, dual personas maybe? I mean, I think you might have that part down. You might be able to pull that off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that was the most fun part about this film to me was being able to play, even though, and again, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it,
Yeah.
maybe pause this, go watch it, and then come back.
Yeah.
Um, but the ability to play these two personas, and although it turns into the same character, it is the same
Yeah.
person. He's
Yeah.
putting on an act, so he's playing two people. in order to gaslight Kat.
Yeah.
So it was fun. And when I first auditioned for the role, I didn't know that it was the same character. I thought it was two different because they had two different names. So I played it in the audition as twin brothers, one
Mm,
in a dark place and the other just, a good dressed out husband.
right.
Um, and so I wanted to kind of, after I booked it and I read the full script and I saw that, okay, at the end turns out it's the same guy. I wanted to still keep the essence of these two personas that I had created, and then just make it make sense that it's him creating this persona and he's creating a character to portray in front of her to throw her off.
Yeah. Well, I'd be super surprised if anybody in the audience that watches the movie figures it out completely, because
Yeah.
even I didn't. So, there was a couple times I said something to my mom, like, she's like, "No, no," just throwing out ideas because that's the way my brain works, but I still didn't have it right, like, at the end of the day. So it was very well done. I think, the ladies in the audience want to know, what day was the love scene shot? Was it, did you get on set? Because this is interesting because I remember doing a movie way back when called Letting Go, and I remember that the director said, "Hi, Blaze, this is so and so." And then the first scene we shot was a kiss scene. I didn't even know the guy. Like it didn't even give us a minute to like kind of warm up to each other or get to know each other, even a hot minute. So how long in did you do that love scene? Because that was pretty hot,
Nothing
steamy
as
love scene.
immediate as what you just described.
Okay. Okay.
We had It was somewhere in the middle of
Okay.
shooting. It wasn't, first day or second day. It was, um, I'm, for me, again, it's like I'm tapping into the character. So it's never really, I never feel awkward about it.
Right.
I always want to make sure that who I'm acting opposite, that they feel comfortable, and I try to gauge what they're okay with, and also it's got to fit in the tone of the film. So if I'm doing,
Right.
I've done love scenes in independent films versus Lifetime films, what they're looking for visually is very different,
Right.
and also, you know, how the character is going to make love varies from character to character, and the scene as well. So, but for this one, yeah, we had already developed great rapport. We were, pretty much on set together every day, and
Yeah.
it was probably for like a week and a half, 2 weeks at that point. So we just jumped right into it, and yeah, had fun with it. I
Yeah.
mean, I think the biggest challenge was tattoo covering up for us.
Yeah. Right.
Actually,
Yeah.
you know what? In justifying your character, in trying to find out like why you're doing this, one of the things that I was kind of upset for you for during this movie was when your wife is putting up missing signs for you, and she doesn't even know how old you are. It just said 30-ish, or in his
I
30s.
know,
Like,
and
wouldn't a wife know how old you are?
yeah, and good eye, Ken, and also maybe I'm not really 6'4", so
Mm, mm.
that wanted poster. I don't know if she was just guesstimating, but she was off. She was off.
She obviously didn't know you that well. No.
She
Well, that
didn't.
did take,
I mean,
like, credit that made kind of her credibility a little more, maybe
Yeah.
she is a little
right.
something up with her,
Yeah,
you
and all
know?
the more reason I felt justified. And my wife doesn't even know who I am. Like, why am I?
Exactly.
Somehow the bad guy got turned into the good guy. I love it, I love it. So, where were you when it premiered? Who were you
Um,
with?
one of the premieres I watched with two lead actresses, and
Okay.
we watched that together in a very close setting, which was a lot of fun. It was nice to watch it in an intimate setting to kind of appreciate it more. The first time I watched it, it was more of a public setting. There was a few people there. It was with the DP, and it was a little bit more of a social event. So I couldn't really focus in and watch it because people were talking and people eating
Yeah,
chips
yeah.
and drinks. So it was more like on in a peripheral way. Um, but I enjoy watching the films that I'm in. I try to. It's like game tapes for me. I get to watch and see what what works, what I could improve upon, what and it's just also nice to see what the finished film is going to look like because you never know. I don't know what take they're going to use. I don't know how it's going to be pieced together. So then you
Yeah.
finally get to see it in its final form, and it just the best parts for me is when I get sucked into the film and forget that I'm you know watching it for learning purposes and more. I just get sucked into the story, and
Yeah.
that is the best. And that to me that means it's done something right, and that's
Right.
a credit to.
Was there a particular scene that was the hardest to shoot for that movie?
Mm, the hardest scene to shoot? No.
Was there anything that stuck out, or no? It was just pretty business as usual.
No, yeah, it was pretty business as usual is a good way to
Okay.
say. Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoyed. I mean, my favorite scene, one of my favorite scenes to shoot, I think, was the alleyway scene, and
Okay.
that I had. That was one of the earlier days of shooting, but we just got to like play in that scene and just really let loose, and I think that was the first time I was showing the darker side of the character. So that was
Mhm.
really fun to tap into that and just had the creative freedom to just improvise and kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
There's something very fun about being able to play over the top
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did they ever, because I'm blanking on this, so correct me. Did they ever say who killed the guy, the doctor or the lawyer, I mean,
That
did
was
they ever
me.
say? It was you for sure. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know what?
yeah.
I thought that psychologist had a dark side too, so I wouldn't put it past her if she did it too. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. And that was they. I actually was in that scene. They filmed me, so the silhouette is actually me.
Okay.
And I really like that the cinematography of that scene. If you watch, it starts on one side of the office, and you see me, the figure in the hood, and then it so slowly pans across, and then you see the lawyer coming out of his office,
Mhm.
follows him out into the parking lot,
Yeah.
and then you see him come back because he forgot something, and it pans back, and then you see the timing of him going in the room just as I'm coming back out. It was all in one shot, and that was
Yeah.
that was
I was gonna
really
say it's almost kind of Brian De Palma-ish in a way with the whole one take type deal. It was
yeah.
very cool, very stylized.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that was Ryan Brown, the DP. He's very very creative with that visually, and he really wanted that. Well, it was Danny Boyle as well. Like they had such a great vision for that scene. They wanted it to be in one take, and even though it made it a lot more challenging because it was a lot of timing, and we had to kind of really figure out the timing with cues and whatnot. But they really were looking for how that would look, and I thought it came out incredible.
Nice.
Yeah, it did, for sure. So let's segue for a minute. Ken, I know you're chomping at the bit. Go right ahead, my friend.
Oh, I'm kind of curious with some of the stuff in your career. I remember being home watching Monday Night Raw on USA one night and seeing a commercial for a reality show, and I'm like, I think this guy on this show looks familiar.
Small
This
world.
can't be somebody I know. So, can you tell me a little bit about what the experience on Temptation Island was like?
Well, did you watch the show?
I did
Every week, Tom, every week we
because
watch
when I
it.
saw the ad, I'm like, I know this guy. It looks like Tom. It can't be Tom.
That was me. Yeah, that
It's
was me.
Tom.
He texted me right away. He's like, "I think," and I was like, "It's him. It's him. It's totally him." And then we watched. We were huge fans of yours and Chelsea's.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we shot that in the very middle of the pandemic. So
yeah.
that was one of the first greenlit shows during the lockdown, at least for a network standpoint. And we shot that in Hawaii. And I remember Hawaii was actually protesting the shooting of it there because they were doing really well numbers wise, and they didn't want people from the mainland coming over, and so, but the governor wanted revenue, so they ended up getting it greenlit. we went over there. We had to quarantine for 3 weeks in a hotel, but it was in Hawaii, and we were quarantining back in LA anyway. So it was nice to travel to get to Hawaii, and then you know meet
C-
some great people.
Can I ask how you got involved with it?
So Chelsea was already a social media influencer, so they found her. They reached out to her. We were actually traveling at the time. I had I had just done a job in Sequoia, like up in the forest in Northern California, and we were heading back. We were going to go. We were on our way into the forest to go explore, and she gets the call, and I pull over because I was losing reception as I was driving to the forest, and the producers pitched it to us, and I said, well, we're traveling right now, but we'll check it out and get back to you. So then the next day when we got home, we binge watch. We were gonna watch like an episode or two, and we ended up binging the entire first season. And I really liked it. It was really, it sucks you in. It's very
Yeah, it does.
addictive, that kind of television.
Yep.
And I was never familiar with the show prior to that, but watching it, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And again, we're like sitting inside for 6 months at this time, and I was like, I think it'd be a good idea. Why don't we do it? It'll get us out of the apartment. We'll be working, and so we agreed to do it, and that's how that went down. Well, I mean, there was a very rigorous audition interview process after that. Once we agreed that we would be willing to do it, it wasn't like it was just offered to us. We had to
Right.
then do, first it was like a phone interview, then it was a Zoom interview, then another Zoom interview, and like 30 people on it, and then they wanted to see like videos of us dancing in our bathing suits, and it was just a bunch of like rings we had to jump through to finally
Right.
book it. And then we got. I remember at some point realizing, I think after we sent the bathing suit thing, that I was like, I think we actually are going to book this thing. Like, I just felt really confident about it, and I felt like we had gotten that far, and I was like, the fact that they're asking for this means they're ready to like pull the,
Yeah.
make the decision. And I remember I remember being very worried because they wanted, the bathing suit, and I was just like in the worst shape of my life because we had everything was shut down, and this was like 6 7 months into the pandemic, so I hadn't seen a gym, I hadn't done a push up, like nothing. I was just, we were just sort of trying to enjoy ourselves, binge watching shows, and just living our life in our apartment. And so when they asked for that, I was like, oh my, no, I'm in terrible shape. So I was like, I have to make it entertaining. So I I played the Risky Business song where Tom Cruise runs out and slides. I played that and
Old
reenacted.
time rock and roll.
Yeah, that I reenacted that in a bathing suit and sang the song, and it was just really funny, and it kind of distracted the fact that I wasn't in the best of shape.
You know what? But kudos, man. Like 6 months into the lockdown, and you got a vacation in Hawaii, essentially, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you get to like live it up. I mean, it had to have been fun.
oh yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a roller coaster, but for sure, like when we got there and we were partying, and I got to meet some great people. I'm still very very good friends with Julian. He got married this past summer. Went to his wedding. Corey,
He
we
lives,
keep in touch.
I remember he lived near where I grew up, not too far
Yeah,
from
South
there.
Jersey. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So that's really cool. I'm glad you keep
small
in touch
world.
with them. If
Yeah.
you had the chance to do it over again, would you? Um, good, bad, everything. Would you do it over again,
I
or
would.
would you take a
I
different
would.
path?
I mean,
You would.
if I like, it's 20. If hindsight's 2020. If I knew now what I
Yeah.
knew, I would do it again. But I would go in differently.
Hmm.
I went in because I was so unfamiliar with reality TV. I went in very naive. I
Right.
didn't understand. I remember thinking like, oh, I'm going to bring some books, and they're just gonna like film me living, and I'll reading books and swimming and like, we're just gonna be like, I don't know, like I was thinking like real world or something. I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't realize like even though it's reality, it's very produced. It's
Yes, it
very
is.
governed and guided, and and you don't really get there's very little freedom, as far
Right,
as like when you can go to sleep. There's no you don't determine that. They
right.
get to tell you when you get to go to sleep, and it's for me. You know, I'm a little bit older than the average person on that show. Like that didn't sit very well with me. The idea, like, wait, if I want to go to sleep right now, you're saying I can't. Like, I didn't like that idea, and
Yeah,
so knowing that now, I think I would have mentally went in a little differently and prepared for that,
right.
and I would have, yeah, I would have went in with a little different mindset for sure.
Tom,
Yeah.
don't worry. I can see behind Blaze that it's dark outside. It's time for me to go to bed now. Like the sun just went down. It's time for me to go to bed.
It's true.
I go to bed early. I go to bed between 10 and 11 on average.
You know what, Tom? I used to be a night owl. And for whatever reason, something shifted, and I have been same thing. I've been going to bed around 10, 11 's the latest these days, and I get up earlier. And I'm enjoying seeing like the sunrise. I mean, I'm not up that early, but sometimes the sunrise.
Yeah.
And just yeah, we were talking earlier, but I just moved recently back to Jersey. So I was in New York for a little while, and now I'm back to Jersey, but there's like a cliff behind me. That's why I'm like in front of the window because it's a beautiful view of the cliff, but it's dark now. And there's a bird of prey out there that I've been watching. I've been bird watching. So actually, this is a perfect segue to go into. We want to get to know our guests a little bit better. So instead of just asking one question, which is our like normal question, we ask everybody. We're asking a few questions. So my first question is, it's going to be a tough one. I got to be a little tougher on you. So let's see. What's your most tempting food? So one that you can't say no to.
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Ice
What
cream. Mint
what
chocolate.
flavor?
Well, mint chocolate chip is my favorite, but
Okay.
coffee ice cream. I love coffee ice cream. I I'm I can eat. I can finish it. I can eat until it's gone. That's yeah.
Okay. Ken, you're
All
up.
right. So Tom, I know you recently saw the new Flash film, which going back to the whole comic book element, I'm a huge comic book fan. First off, are you a comic book fan? And
Yes.
secondly, what did you think of the Flash?
Okay. So yeah. I mean, I was a huge comic book fan growing up, and I still have thousands of comic books back back
You
where
too.
I'm back in New Jersey, where I'm originally from.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I was a big DC fan, more so than Marvel growing up. Um, the Flash film is the best of the DC extended universe films by far. They
I
finally seem to have figured out how to balance the dramatic elements while still having the heartfelt moments and the comedy, the way Marvel has mastered.
well, I think the Flash is the perfect character to be able to do that with a balance because the Flash is a lighter character. But have not had a chance to see it still yet. Michael Keaton is Batman. Bringing him back. I mean, how epic is it?
Well, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything for
No,
you,
no, it's all right.
um, but it was one of those.
Nostalgia factor, at least, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean, growing up, I've always considered him to be the Batman, the best
yeah.
Batman. Anyone who says Christian Bale, I will argue you to the death.
I'm
Um,
not a fan of those movies, actually.
yeah. Love the movies, especially The Dark Knight. I like the first two. The third one, I'm not crazy about, but I think they're great films. But I don't think they're the best Batman films.
Right.
I even think the Batman that came out last year was a better Batman film than any of them. Um, and I just feel like Michael Keaton nailed the essence of who Batman is to me, at least. Very stoic, very extremely intelligent, always multiple steps ahead of everyone else. The smartest person in the room, doesn't get emotional. So,
And he and
that's
he
one of the
and he
things.
constantly walks the line.
Yeah, and you could tell he's tormented,
Yep.
um, which I always, that always resonated with me.
Yep.
Him sitting alone in the cave, and it just all he
Mhm.
has is Alfred, who's trying to remind him to eat, but he's so consumed by what he's doing that he
Yeah.
forgets to even eat. That to
Yep.
me was more Batman versus the playboy. Let me be on a yacht with girls to put up this image.
Mhm.
It's like
Yep.
the expenditure of energy and time to do that. It doesn't seem to me like what Batman would be doing.
Right. Yeah,
So yes,
absolutely.
seeing him was great. He killed it. Michael Keaton is just a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
He brought back that character as if he had been playing him for the last 30 years. It was as if
Mm,
he would miss a beat.
Did
yeah.
you feel like a kid watching him do it again?
I wouldn't say I felt like a kid again. No.
Okay.
But
I
it was. Let me say this though: there is the least you know about the film going in, the better.
Right.
There's just a lot of nostalgic elements and Easter eggs that you'll enjoy all the more if you don't. Like, have you guys seen the trailer?
Yeah.
No.
So, okay, so I won't even say anything since you haven't seen it. Don't
No,
watch the trailer because
I won't.
I was intentionally avoiding the trailer, and then I saw John Wick in the theaters, and they had the preview for it, so I saw way more than I wish I had seen because I would
Yeah.
have been more blown away seeing that for the first time in the film.
Mm.
Yeah.
So if you can avoid it at all costs, don't read about it. Just go see it.
I remember when last it wasn't the last Spider-Man, it was the Spider-Man that had Tobey Maguire come back and James
Yeah,
Garfield,
the last one.
everybody.
The
Yeah, so
last
it was
one.
the last one, yeah. So I remember going to the movies and the gentleman that I was with, he kept watching me because I didn't know anything that was going. I purposely didn't, and it was like I was a kid again watching. Like
Yeah.
it was so cool. And he said at the end, he's like, I just so enjoyed watching you. He's like, I watched the movie, but I just so got a kick out of you and how because I do get into it. And it's not I'm not in the movie business randomly. I love it so much. So I think yeah, I just really got it. So my question for you though, Tom, next is who is your favorite superhero on either side?
Batman.
Batman. Okay.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
just I always loved and appreciated his dedication and focus. In a way, it's his curse, which makes Batman a very Shakespearean character. He
Hmm.
doesn't have a Mary Jane or a Lois Lane. The closest thing he does have to that is Catwoman, and that's only because she's in that world too. So he
Hmm.
allows himself, you know, those moments with her, but he doesn't have a real life where Clark Kent got married and he has a real life. Clark Kent, Peter Parker has a real life and a real job. Bruce Wayne doesn't. Like, that's all just an image. He really is Batman. That's what his life is all about. It's not
Yeah.
the side hustle. That's the focus.
Yeah. All right, Ken, last question from you.
Um, what would you say has been the hardest challenge in your acting career?
Mm.
Finding jobs. That's I mean that the business side of acting has always been the most challenging. Unless you're very very fortunate where the work just keeps coming your way. It's a grind. And I got into acting later in life. I had a career change. And Speed, Damon, and Holly, I think, was one of the very first things I had
Yeah.
done.
I
I think I
remember
was
talking to you about that.
yeah, I was in acting school still. So
Yeah.
I was yeah, I hadn't even graduated, and I was still, figuring it all out. But creatively, what's the most challenging thing I've done? Um, no, I don't know. Every time I try to find a new set of challenges when I do a film, if I'm not being challenged, or it's, then I get worried that that what am I missing here? Because I need to feel that energetic uh, life of the character. Because every time you're telling a story because it's something different about the when, the why, the how, and the who right now, and that's why this
Right.
story is being told.
Right.
And you have to tap into that. And for me, when I'm tapped into that, I'm feeling it. So a lot of times, the way I act, I tend to carry whatever my character's going through. I kind of sit with it. So if I'm doing a shoot for a month, I'm kind of living in that emotional, mental space that the character's in. So if it's a darker film, which I tend to do the darker films, the challenge for me there is living in that space, which can be very it can be dark. I guess that brings us back to Batman in the cave.
Yeah. Yeah, so do you then go more method? Is that what because
Well,
that's what it sounds like a little bit, but maybe not as far?
so I studied Meisner technique.
Okay.
So it's a combination of I use imagination, but also sensory memory as well. So I'm combining it. I'm tapping into it, the way I can get in with my own memories and how I can relate to it, and
Mhm.
then I allow my imagination to kind of, the magical. What if, like, if this was
Yeah.
happening to me, and then I get there and it activates me, and then once I'm on with the other actors, whatever, and they're giving me stuff to work with, it's like now we're cooking. Now it's
That's the best feeling right there, right?
Yeah.
When you actually have someone you can bounce stuff off of and feed off of it. Yeah.
dream.
Yeah. Well, that takes us to our last question for you, which is if you have a piece of advice that you can give to someone who's just starting out in acting, whether it's younger or starting out a little bit older than what the norm is, I suppose. Which I
Sure.
think now it doesn't matter, does it? Because
Not really.
yeah, there's opportunities for everybody at all ages, and so. But what piece of advice do you have?
My piece of advice. Let's see. I would say for those that are considering this, ask yourself if you love it, if you really love what you're doing, because it is a very challenging career endeavor. So if you don't love it, there's easier things to do to make a living. But if you do love it and you really want to pursue it as a serious actor, um, focus, dedication, and commit to the craft, and don't give up. A lot of times it's easy to find reasons to quit or to stop, and you have to just remember why you're doing what you're doing, and don't forget the joy of the ride. Um, and when you are working, just enjoy it. Be grateful that you have the opportunity to act and tell a story, because that is the dream. You're getting, you're making a living storytelling and playing, and what's greater than that?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's the best advice ever. So Tom,
Tom
what else is coming up for you
took the
next?
words right out of my
Oh,
mouth.
I knew it. See that?
Well, I just did a rom com with Grace Patterson. I'm playing opposite her. It's called Sparks,
Okay.
and it's a great fun movie. Great script. It was really enjoyable playing something on the lighter, heartfelt, warm, loving, dealing with all of those emotions and not the wanting to kill people. so I, that was great. And yeah, so that will be coming out. It's in post production right now. I just wrapped that up, and so I'm just getting back from that a little while ago, and I just did a commercial recently, and now it's kind of, with the strike going on, it's figuring out what's going to happen with that, and that's a really interesting conversation.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
what are your guys' thoughts on the strike and where it's going to end up?
I don't know. It's so hard. To, Ken, you're
You know, I don't
opinionated.
focus.
What's
I
your
don't
thoughts?
focus. I don't focus so much on the outcome. I'm always just more concerned about the people that it affects while it's happening. To be
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
like I mean, people get wrapped up in things, but then sometimes you kind of forget that there's other people that are actually involved with it that aren't part of it too.
Yeah.
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 What's your take, Tom?
Well, I have a lot of interesting thoughts on
Yeah.
AI, and I think it's a matter. I think they should kind of separate the issues. Like, there's the pay issue, which is definitely needs to be completely restructured, and with streaming and how creators are compensated through streaming.
Hmm.
I feel like it's kind of been the wild wild west for the last 10 years since streaming became really popular,
Yeah.
and artists aren't there's all this money being made, not just in acting but in music as well. Look at Spotify, and how artists, what is a stream worth? And I think we need to have a real conversation about figuring out what is a fair amount to pay someone for a stream. If
Yeah.
you're the creator, if you created the content, you guys are creating content right here.
Right.
And if this is an hour-long podcast and you put it on a platform like Spotify, and people are spending an hour watching it, how much should you be compensated for that? What's a fair value for that? And I think figuring out that where everyone is happy, where the streaming platforms are happy and the creators are happy, is you need to do that, because it's been forever that, like, before streaming existed, artists were kind of not always compensated properly, and then they finally figured it out with the right representation and with the unions, and now they finally started getting paid
Hmm.
their value. And then when streaming got introduced, it was this whole new world where artists could be exploited again. So
Right.
I think figuring that out is one side of the puzzle, and then the other side of the puzzle, you have the artificial intelligence side, and that, I think, is a much more nuanced, complex issue, where I feel
Yeah.
like it's not as simple as, I mean, the union's position is like, we have to protect the creators' jobs, and that's the job of the union, is to do that. But I think there's more to it than just that, because you don't also want to impede progress, technologically. So, it's like,
Yeah.
would you want to stop Easy Pass from being made just to keep the toll booth collectors' jobs intact? It's like,
Right.
you don't want to impede progress just to have a job today, but you also don't want to displace people. And so you have to figure out a strategic way to, one, find out where do we want to go. Is artificial intelligence and telling stories where we want to go? And if so, is it what's best for storytelling? And do we want to let the market dictate that, or do we want to
Right.
regulate it? Like, it's a really nuanced conversation, and I just hope the people that are having these conversations are really exploring it openly, and not kind of just, here's my position, and they're just trying to, like, butt heads.
Right. I was talking actually to my aunt the other day because her daughter just graduated college, and I just had mentioned AI and how um, you could get a paper written,
Yeah.
basically, and how are schools, how are educational facilities stopping kids from using that to to send in papers and things. And she said there was something in place, but I just wonder how true that is. And is it a form of creation if I were to take a movie like your movie, the Lifetime movie, The Man with My Husband's Face, and somehow put some of the script lines in it and just reworked it, and same formula that Lifetime has, and reworked it, but just with AI doing it. It's a delicate thing. It's a slippery slope is what I really mean to
Yeah,
say. Like, it really is,
it
because
is a slippery slope. You
yeah,
want to make sure that if the AI is pulling from already existed content, that those people that created that content that it's pulling from
right.
are being properly compensated. Otherwise, it's copyright infringement in a way.
So, like we had talked the other day on the phone, and you had mentioned the Bruno. Was it Bruno Mars and then Michael Jackson, that they were able to kind of totally shift that song, and it made it look like Michael Jackson was singing that song post mortem. And it's amazing on so many levels, the technology and how things are going. But then on the same line, then it's like, well, is Bruno Mars getting compensated for that? At
Mhm.
least like as the writer of the song, did he give approval for that? How do they police that? That's really the question. Is that how do you maintain it and control it without it just going off the rails, which I think it already has in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, you're touching on a very important part about it, of how
Yeah.
it is. You want to avoid exploitation, um, while also though not stop curtailing it completely. Like, and to go back to your school example, I think instead of instead of making the mission, how can we prevent students from using AI to write papers? It should be more about how can we teach students to implement this tool creatively, and how
Yeah.
can we teach them to differentiate so we could see what it's missing for the human element. It's when I went to school, they would give us these math tests, and they would look around so that you didn't use your calculator.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why not teach the students how to maximize the calculator and use it efficiently, instead of like, let's ban calculators and you have to do this by paper and pen. It's like, why? If in real life I have a calculator,
Yeah.
like, how about, why don't and they never had a class on how to use all the functions on a calculator. How much
Right.
more useful would that have been than being able to do, fractional division by hand? It's something
Right.
I can. So
Yeah.
like that kind of mentality of, instead of how to avoid using technology, it's why don't we teach them how to utilize technology?
Right. Yeah. It's definitely going to be a long time discussion for sure, and something that hopefully everything gets at least like I don't wanna say compartmentalized, but just kind of not shelved. I hope that they really go into the nitty gritty of it, and allow for especially the creative types to get their due and not be exploited. That's really the point, I think, for me. Every time I see it, I'm excited about being able to put, let's say I'm writing an email and I want to say something different. I can just put that in AI. It gives me different alternatives, and beautiful. But it's also an email, not a not a
Yeah.
body of work that I'm taking from somebody else. But I had this conversation with somebody, like, what if you're putting the song like "Let It Be" from the Beatles, and you want a different spin on it? Then you put, is that fair? Is that really creative to just take some, and you have to think too, like, I think at the end of the day too, what's your integrity? I don't like to steal anybody else's stuff. And it's from somebody who's had a couple things stolen from me in my time in the business. Um, I didn't like it at all. It feels awful. But so I wouldn't do the same thing to anybody else, even if it is in an AI way. But there's ways to utilize that technology, and to keep the technology moving forward. We do have to do that. I mean, we're back in space again, and there's so many interesting things that are happening in the world. It's just a matter of uh, making sure that we're doing it the right way, and that integrity is held intact. And our creatives, which do sometimes get the shaft, I'll just say, a lot of times, or forgotten, that we at least like give them their due. So
Well said.
yeah, yes, yes, yes. Ken, anything to add before we?
I think enough's been said on this, actually, and I know we're almost ready to come to a close. So
Yes, we are. So, how you can watch Tom and learn more about him and his body of work, you can go to www.tomgipson.com. I'm also going to put up his IMDb page, which
Yep.
maybe have some fun photos there for you. We did show a clip or two, I think, during this interview. And Tom, just thank you so much for taking the
Yes.
time. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you too for sending that message to. He sent a beautiful message to my mom in the hospital, which was so kind and sweet. And that's just who you are. So really appreciate you and just wish you all the best. So keep us posted on everything, and definitely
Please.
want you back again.
All right, well, thank you guys for having me. It was a blast, and I would love to be back at some point.
It
Sounds
was
good.
great catching up, man.
Yes.
Likewise, man. Tell your mom I said hello.
Thank you
All right.
so much. Take care.
All right, guys.
Bye.
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 Oh,
I love that man.
cheers. Cheers to Tom.
Cheers.
Yes. Mm, that was great. I love that he was able to actually also get into some of the stuff that I don't want to say that others are afraid to talk about, but
Mm,
and I say this again too about the authenticity, but that does seem to be the word that comes up when I'm really feeling that way. There's just such an authentic way that Tom has, and I just love his demeanor and everything about him. So
absolutely.
no surprise that really doing well. And yeah, I look forward to seeing him on
And
other things, more
and
Lifetime movies.
after
Batman.
yeah, Batman. I mean, you know, I was looking at his 5 o'clock shadow and everything he had
Yeah,
going on. I know Marvel's casting X-Men. Maybe he might, he's got the look.
he
You
does.
know.
He does. For sure. I know. Well, let's put a word in
So
for him because he deserves it. But anyway, all right. Well, listen, we have two more things to do real quick. One is to go in the kitchen with Nicole. So let's do that right now.
What's up, Ken and Blaze? It's your girl Nicole, and I want to talk about Temptations since we're talking Temptation Island today. Now, you might have heard me use this analogy before, but let's just say you really, really want a brownie, and you think, I love that, but maybe I shouldn't have that. Maybe that's bad. So then you go and you have an apple. That doesn't quite hit the spot. Then you're maybe saying, I'll have some pretzels. Not quite. A cheese stick. Maybe I need rice cakes. Moral of the story, you probably should have just had the brownie. Here's what. The more we restrict these foods that might be tempting to us, foods that we really love, foods that we crave, the more problems we can create for ourselves and possibly a binge and restrict cycle. Sometimes it's best to just eat, enjoy, and move on. And in turn, you'll learn to train yourself to accept things in a portion-controlled little bit of fun. So as you're thinking temptations, maybe give yourself a little grace and a little space to enjoy them as opposed to restricting them. In the long term, I know you will thank yourself. Ken and Blaze, back to you both in the studio.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Nicole. We love Nicole. All right. And
We do.
last but not least, a little beachcombing with Blaze. And this time, because in honor of Tom and he mentioned Batman, I will roll that clip and see what I came up with.
On today's episode of Beachcombing with Blaze, it's all about the superhero of caves, bats. Did you know that bats are the only mammals that can truly fly? And they're super fast too. Bat wings are like hands with long fingers, giving them super precision when in flight. So cool. The smallest bat is the size of a bumblebee, and the largest has a wingspan of more than 5.5 feet. That's almost as tall as me. These nocturnal, cave-dwelling creatures feed on insects, fruit, and nectar, depending on what type they are. And a few do feed on blood, too, like the vampire bat. Never fear, though. Batman helped Gotham, and bats help habitats around the world to flourish. They get rid of pests like mosquitoes, beetles, some using echolocation to get the job done, too. Oh, and they pollinate crops. Sadly, an epidemic called white nose syndrome has caused their populations to decline. That's mostly in North America. Well, until next time, explore, learn, love the adventure.
I mean, I feel like I have sort of a grotto cave action going on back here where I live. So yeah, so why not? You learned lots about bats.
Absolutely.
What do you think? I
I
mean,
love
that's
it.
the best.
You were so worried about how I was gonna fit this costume into the show, and it worked. talked about Batman, the Flash, comic books, superheroes. Tom is
Listen.
one of my own personal superheroes. Personally, I love the guy. So yeah, it all works. It all came full circle. I made this work tonight. All right.
You did, but I will say DC is his favorite, not Marvel.
Doesn't matter.
But okay, it was
Hey,
a stretch.
hey,
It was a stretch, but I'll give it to
agree
you.
to disagree.
And you look good in it. You look very nice in that outfit. Thank
I
you.
hope so.
Thank you for sharing it with our audience. Well, listen, guys, that's going to about wrap it up for us. So if you'd like to follow us on Instagram, please go to the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour and add us. You can also add us by our personal names. And then also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's just at the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour. And great show
Like,
tonight. Great show
subscribe,
tonight.
do all that
Yes.
stuff.
Please, please,
Yes.
please, please. We'd love to have you. And listen, for future episodes, we might be announcing ahead of time who the guest is so that if you have questions for them, so if you're the only way to find that information out is if you are a subscriber to us on our Instagram or YouTube. So,
There you go.
all right, guys. Well, have a great night. And I'm going to say cheers. Cheers to Tom Gipson and to your future, my friend, and to you, Ken. Talk to you soon.
Have a good night. Love you. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
You just enjoyed the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour with Blaze and Ken.